It's been probably 20 years since I last watched this entire franchise. And I
Mhm.
think I only watched it once. And there's a lot that I forgot. This really is not a comedy movie.
No, action. I think I chuckle at the 5 jokes that they tell, but
Yes.
it's very partner-y, buddy cop, but not comedy.
Yeah, it is an action detective movie.
Yeah.
We're solving a crime. But it had, like you said, like 5 jokes.
I think I guess I don't have too many buddy cop movies to compare it to. It definitely feels like the main one. Although there's
Mhm.
other comedy ones like straight comedy, Turner and Hooch, where he has
I
a
was gonna say you got the one with
dog
the dog.
partner. All right. But like on their own wiki, there's like, oh, Lethal Weapon wikis. Maybe you're interested in Die Hard wikis. It's like,
Yeah.
those are about the same. I wonder, I don't actually know when they came out. I know they take place around Christmas, so was it around Christmas? Was this a big holiday something?
Hello and welcome to Potato Chip Pictures, the movie franchise review podcast. My name is B. Sammy Davis.
Oh, I'm still Justin.
And today we are starting a not even new to us. We're starting another franchise. We are at the first movie, so Justin, please introduce this franchise.
Franchise I mostly watched on TV VHS recordings. It is Lethal Weapon, first released 1987. Never re-released, but where it takes place around Christmas in the show, I didn't know until looking. It was released in March, so a good couple months. I'm curious on that date then, but we'll go through the points. The director of the first and all of the Lethal Weapons is Richard Donner. I think
big hit maker in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, I don't know any of his other stuff.
Obviously Lethal Weapon is I don't know. I don't want to say the biggest. I just know that his name would show up in my childhood where it'd be like a new movie from Richard Donner.
It sounds familiar. But I think that lends to the feel of all of them. I think I've watched at least 3 of the 4, and they do all kind of match, which is nice.
Most people have not seen number 4. I think that's going to be the one.
Huh.
I mean, that's the one where whenever I mention it in passing, they're like, oh yeah, there was a 4th one. I thought it was a trilogy.
It definitely, 4th one we get to in the 90s, but it definitely has the upgraded visuals. Although, let's finish out the story. Screenwriter for this one was Shane Black. Story by Shane Black. Producer Richard Donner and Joel Silver. I don't know anything else about the rest of these people, except
I know a little bit about Shane Black, but give us the last 2, and then I'll give
important
Shane Black
digits. They managed to secure $15 million for their budget. That's where it's like, well, $15 million is nothing to sneeze at. I feel like that's less than some of the Chuckies, right?
I mean, $15 million in late 80s is pretty standard for most. It's not like a blockbuster,
no,
lots of explosions type of movie, but it is a respectable budget with star power.
Nor is March the expected season to bring you back $120 million, about 8 times as much.
Although we have a movie in theaters right now that is probably going to do that much.
Yeah. Oh, I guess it is March.
Yep. Project Hail Mary is out, and it is doing big numbers.
Those are the
and it's
digits.
also March.
Tell us about the peeps.
Okay, so the name that I'm at least more familiar with than everybody else is Shane Black. He is a writer, director, although he has also done acting, but I can't tell you who he is. Like, if I've ever watched anything with Shane Black, I couldn't be like, oh yeah, that's him. I'm more familiar with him as a writer and director. The biggest thing that he did that probably most people have seen was Iron Man 3. Where he wrote, I don't know if he wrote, but he definitely directed, and he may have been part of the story. But where I first became aware of his name was one of my longtime favorite movies and kind of the return of Robert Downey Jr., the thing that many people argue gave him many of his return opportunities. Like everything that led to Iron Man kind of starts with Shane Black writing and directing Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And the thing about all of his movies is they all take place in Christmas. It doesn't matter when they're releasing, doesn't matter what the subject is, it's always Christmas time.
That's interesting.
That's just, yep, that's his thing. That's
so funny.
That's why Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie. That's why Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a Christmas movie. I'm blanking on his other movies, and I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, that's his signature. That's what he wants people to be like, oh yeah, and it took place in Christmas. It must be a Shane Black movie.
Well, 1987. Let's see. 97. 07, 70, 40 years ago? Really?
Wild, isn't it? I mean, I was alive when this franchise came out. I was like 2.5 years old.
Well, I think it just stands to put some of, like, looking at James Bond before the 80s, felt like, oh, those are old times. Like, well, 87 wasn't quite so old times.
Mm-hmm.
I do think a plus that I don't have like a spot in the movie to necessarily give it a plus, but the haze of the Chuckies, where like everything kind of feels so like a generic location that nothing else exists in relation to it. Like the abandoned house, sure, that's a place somewhere, but it's isolated and not in a neighborhood or suburbs. Like, I mean, I guess it is in a neighborhood of sorts, but it is so low standing, and all the haze and stuff that happens and the space that they kind of try and take up in movies, it doesn't really show up in this. Like, there's stuff happening in all the corners. I don't know if they like filmed at locations necessarily to get that, but like the police office has cubicles and it's got decorations for Christmas, like, but not like a bunch. It's a place,
and people are working there.
Yeah,
like, you've got a populated area that's not just an empty set. I agree.
It feels different.
Yeah, after we did kind of a more intimate franchise, it does feel a little crowded. There's people everywhere.
Yeah. So that's a plus to my rating that I didn't have one place in particular to say stood out.
Mm-hmm. I think this movie encapsulates my vision of the 80s. Because like, I've always had kind of a sour taste with the 80s. I'm realizing that most of that was just kind of a bad attitude about the look and style that I didn't really like. But the older I get, the more I realize that there is good stuff that came out of the 80s. There's good music. There's good movies. But I can't help it. I see Mel Gibson's mullet and I'm just like, yep, we are in the 80s, baby.
Lots of hair.
Oh yeah. And it is of that time and of that style. But at the same time, there are There were even times in the Bond franchise where even those older movies didn't really feel realistic because everybody's so dressed up and everything is so high class. Whereas these are people that are probably in their regular street clothes, like especially the extras. That's just how people dressed. They didn't have fancy costumes or anything. Only the actors did. And even them, most of their costumes were very dirty or worn, especially Mel Gibson, Riggs' character.
Yeah.
And so, I think for me, like, there are times when you get like a genuine time capsule of a time period. And this movie is kind of that. I feel like the style, the way people spoke, the technology, I think most of it is indicative of what people would have been familiar with in the 80s. You don't really have a lot of high tech, really expensive stuff that nobody was ever going to be touching at that time. And you don't have these fancy costumes that are exaggerated and would never have been what people wore out in public.
The bad guys are all in suits and a turtleneck. Yeah. I'm like, that might be a bit much, but I'd enjoy that the corporate feel is the bad guys.
Exactly. You got to have the yuppies there, and they got to be the bad guys. Yeah. Well, take me away. Let's go on this journey. We don't have to do like everything, but at least tell me what starts this thing off.
I mean, if we look at it in the lens of this actually isn't buddy comedy, it's partner detective work. Like the introduction of the characters tries to give a familiar sense of, okay, this is where they live, and not say too much about them. Like, hey, it's Murtaugh's birthday. His family sings happy birthday to him in the tub. It's a little
so weird.
Yeah, it's very odd and very.
I forgot.
It's okay because it feels like that nobody in that family is saying, "This is really weird, guys. Why are we doing this?"
It's just a normal thing for that family. So
bust in and do it. And
yep.
But I don't know if it all kind of gets jumbled together, but it's not a down point for me. There might be a bit of nostalgia goggles in all of this, but both Murtaugh and Riggs's introduction feel like a nice 3 minutes of, man, one guy has a family in a house, one guy lives in a trailer, and I figure going into this movie, they're going to be partners, but you get to see them apart and see how it will eventually clash. I enjoy it, and it's quiet. The half of this movie is gunshots and body blows and punches, so it's quiet where we get to meet them, and everything feels alive. Whenever they tour Murtaugh's house getting breakfast, like there's a little notch out of the walls for like home improvements, and nobody points to it, because why would you say, oh, we're putting in the breakfast nook? It's like, no, you go about your breakfast and you have a day. So
you're in the middle of the project. You're not. The only time you're talking about the project is when you're actively working on the project. Otherwise, you just ignore it.
That's not right
it'll
now.
Get done. Yeah.
I think I love that about the first, 10 minutes of the movie, is that? Or 20 maybe? Because they somewhere eventually meet.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, I don't know where it happens in the opening, but the suicide that eventually gets ruled as a murder at the beginning was so like noir. You had you had the wind blowing, you had the sexy lady, you had the saxophones, and then she starts climbing up on the balcony and my hands get all sweaty, and then she jumps. Like, it's the most obvious suicide of all suicides. this whole movie is very focused on suicide. There are
Yes.
3 people, one of them who does it, and 2 more who are struggling with it. One of them, he's only in one scene. The other one is Riggs. But still, this whole movie is very focused on suicide. And that first one, like, I'm not going to lie, I'm sitting here thinking, I don't remember anything about this movie. How is this lady jumping off of this building going to kick off a detective story?
Yeah, I think I would probably agree because I skipped it entirely because the meat of this is the 2 dudes. Like, she's the cause, she's the plot reason, but the bad guys are just moving drugs. But
yeah,
that's a consequential or coincidental piece of Riggs and Murtaugh not dying.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of coincidence, it's also a very small world because the Jumper is the daughter of Murtaugh's war buddy. And so the war buddy apparently called in the morning, said, I need you to call me back. And then when Murtaugh's like, your daughter's dead, he's like, that's sad. Well, I was just going to call and talk about nothing really. Don't worry about it. I'm nonchalant. And so I'm like, this is turning into quite the mystery. But he gets killed like halfway through the movie. So like everybody who has information ends up dying. And that is part of a good detective story. But yeah, I was struck by like, what a coincidence that like you show up to this investigation and you're like, oh, I know this girl. Like, I gotta go talk to her dad. Oh, her dad's a part of it too.
Yeah, I think the detective arc is well paced. They do figure out stuff by the halfway point, and then it's just acting on doing their jobs, trying to foil it. Although I do think it becomes a bit of those, like, well, you probably would talk about it with your chief, etc., and figure out what to do instead of, just taking on $1 million drug ring all on your own.
Nobody has anything to say to them. Like, I think the only time we deal with the chief is when we're introduced to Riggs, and we have the clash where Murtaugh sees someone with a gun in a police station and freaks out about it. I've never, like, that's my thumbs down introduction scene when they finally meet and he tackles him over the gun. I'm like, boo. But I don't remember if we ever see the chief again. Like, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't recall because they kind of just go off chasing leads, and
it's just the 2 of them for the rest of the movie.
See, and I feel like I've heard of another detective story based in like Hollywood 19 somethings, but I've never watched it. But I've now kind of want to watch L.A. Confidential. Is that? I feel like that's.
I think so. I've never seen it either. I thought you were talking Last Action Hero.
I've seen that plenty of times.
And that one's got a detective, and it's got a chief who yells at the detective. And
well, maybe I'll try that one next because it's seems like it's detective story, and this one, I think the detection works out nice as a vehicle for them to doubt each other, trust each other, doubt each other again, and finally overcome the odds. Because it's really kind of, I don't mind the hashing out what we think is happening between the 2 of them, because they have to talk over like, oh, what do you think actually happened, as they shoot at the shooting range.
Yeah.
It's a lot of very masculine coded 80s stuff.
But I gotta be honest with you, maybe this is why I'm never gonna go into therapy. But I give, like, as a profession, I give it a thumbs up to have Murtaugh essentially get right up in Riggs' face and be like, hey man, are you going to kill yourself? Like, I need to know. I can't be your partner if you're going to shoot yourself tonight. Like, and they have some confrontation about it.
Yeah.
And I like that. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I'm wrong, but I do kind of like the tough love direct route.
If it worked like the movies, yeah. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a concern coded thing in this sort of situation.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
but,
because let's talk about the famous scene where someone else got some tough love, and I don't think it's done correctly at all.
you're gonna have to describe.
I'm talking about the jumper. The jumper.
He jumps with him. Yeah. It feels maybe of these scenes in a detective story, it only is there to set up the confrontation because, yeah, why would you have an airbag there and not mention it before you get up there? At least I didn't hear it mentioned, and then it's like, oh, surprise.
Well, my bigger beef is how did the jumper not see the airbag getting inflated? Between its size and the noise, surely they would have noticed it. Like, the guy would have been like, okay, well, I guess this is over. If I go jumping, right, I'm landing here. So I guess I got to go back. But
for dramatic effect, but I'm also like, well, then Riggs was safe. He wasn't going to fall to his death. Why are you mad at him now?
Yeah.
So, a bit of a setup, but I never really asked that question whenever I first watched it. It's like, oh, they landed safely. Oh man, he is out of control. You're a loose cannon.
Yeah, I remember the very first time I watched it. I remember being like, what is he doing? Like, because they go slow motion and you're getting the suicidal cop to join a jumper as they go leaping off the edge. And I was just like, we've still got a lot of movie to go. And there's a whole franchise. Like, what is going on? And then, of course, they land. But I do wonder what it would have been like to be an audience member in the 80s, to be like, wow, this movie has some balls. Oh, they're fine.
Oh, they're fine. Yeah. Yeah, I think that may be one of the scenes that feels lower stakes after you realize the airbag's there. Yeah. It does a decent job if you watch it for the first time, but
the longer I sit with it, the less I like it. And I'm just gonna tell you now, this is the scene that kind of most negatively affects my score. Like, there's a lot of this movie that doesn't necessarily make me think thumbs down for the most part, but there are times when this movie's a little on the slower side. It's a little bit boring. I'm sorry, especially at the beginning. When we're chasing down leads, there's parts where it kind of bores me. And then having our suicidal cop decide to handle a suicidal civilian by both of them jumping off of a building. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, nah, I think even in the 80s he would have been suspended. I don't think he'd still be on the case.
I mean, if there was any sort of reporting and if the chief actually, could check on everyone, maybe.
Yeah, because there are cameras there. There was definitely reporting, but you're right. The chief's nowhere around. Like,
I did feel like maybe that's one spot is how much their cop radio was going off and chatter was all over the place. Like, they took on the one that sounded as they were getting in their car for the jumper, but besides that, it sounded like all the other cops were busy with other stuff happening in LA. Like, fair. There's 1 million people there, so I think that probably is how it goes down.
Plus, they've got donut shops, No, I'm sorry. I'm not that sorry, but I am a little sorry.
But yeah, I think it's like an hour before we really get too much into the action, but that's the figuring it out part. And I don't know if that's a classic trope of detective stories, but they kind of gel and do their buddy cop thing without letting loose too many one-liners. It's mostly, it feels like instead of comedic relief, it's like Riggs at one point leaves the house after having some dinner, and it's like Murtaugh's checking in on him, you're all right, and Riggs is like, I'm really good at shooting guns, essentially, is what he says.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a masculine pose of, I might not be all right, but I'm really good at shooting guns. It's like, well, okay. Like, this is the movie we signed up for. Yes. So, yeah, not so much comedy, but a lot of partner.
Yeah,
I think it's
I'd say quips, maybe.
Yeah, friendship in as manly yet actually a little bit heartfelt of a movie. Like,
yeah, man, this is a pretty good friendship by the end of this movie. That's my big thumbs up. Is I totally believe this friendship.
Oh yeah, yes. I think it. What was it like? I called the Casino Royale James Bond, basically just the trope of enemies to lovers with the Bond girl and him. But there's a lot of action in it. But we're going to actually sell men a romance story that's not bad, with provided there's deaths and guns and stuff. So here's a great friendship, provided there's a drug ring and heroin and hookers and stuff. Like,
yeah, there's got to be some action. Otherwise, these guys would not be friends. Well, let's talk baddies. We got to talk the villains.
I think he's iconic as a villain. I don't know if he was a villain in anything else but Gary Busey.
Yeah.
The second in command, but cooler than the first
final
in command.
Villain, technically. Like, he's the one who makes it all the way to the end. But I'm trying to think of my favorites. Obviously, we've got Gary Busey as Mr. Joshua. He burns his arm at one point to really show how into
Committed.
it he is. Yeah.
Loyal.
I don't remember who the boss is. I can't remember his name.
Something. I do not remember. McAllister. And there's references to like Hunsaker being a Vietnam War buddy of Murtaugh's, and Riggs, I think, was in Vietnam. I don't quite know their lore.
I can't remember if he said he was in Vietnam or something else, but he was a sniper in the war, war.
McAllister was this commander of Hunsaker's company and is continuing to launder money through Hunsaker while bringing in and selling heroin in LA. So it's mostly a drug ops.
I was going to say, I don't know anything about importing drugs. So when they were explaining it, it all kind of went over my head. Maybe I'm a little more innocent than I think I am, but you explaining it also went over my head. I was like, why do they need to do it in why do they need to get Hunsaker involved at all? Like, I don't understand any of this.
He's got a bank. Yeah.
I guess yeah, all of that was a little weird to me, but the villains were good. I think besides Gary Busey, my other favorite is the, I don't know if he's supposed to be Red Chinese or North Korean, but the torturer Indo, played by Al Leong.
Yeah.
He's not very big in this movie. Like, he's only in for one scene, but it's so iconic that I'm pretty sure he got cast as a torturer in other things. He was a henchman in other things. Like he had a pretty important role and a pretty iconic visual within this movie.
Yes. I don't know that he's in much other things. Oh, apparently he was in Napoleon Dynamite.
Really?
I'm trying to think of when.
Yeah. I guess I have a reason to watch that movie again. As I don't know if I've said it before, but every time I watch that movie, I like it more. Yeah. Like I'm down to go back to Napoleon Dynamite.
I think
to try to find.
I'd agree that for his brief time in the film, he probably is the most recognizable villain of Lethal Weapon. Mm-hmm. You may not know Lethal Weapon, but you'd know that he's there.
Yep, you've probably seen his particular scene. He is of this movie, I think he's the most iconic part of it. Like this movie has a lot of good stuff that sets things up, but I think we're going to get to the most famous imagery in the next two sequels.
Oh, okay.
I think that for the most part, the only two things visually that I think other people reference the only other thing besides the torture is the first time they enter the mansion and some guy starts shooting at them and then they shoot him into the pool with the covering and they have to jump in and try to get him out. We've had many movies since then do some form of the pool covering is going to kill you type of deal.
Yeah. Oh, man. I have it playing in the background at 2x speed. And again, I think it may hold up a lot of my score. They're talking to Hunsaker before he gets assassinated. And there's people in black out on his mansion grass. And he's in there with a bunch of like eggnog things. And I had to sit and think,
this is a funeral.
I was like, wait, what are they doing here? Oh yeah, his daughter just died like 2 days ago. They're having a funeral and nobody says a word about it, but it lives in the background. I absolutely love it.
And they all panic when the helicopter comes in and starts firing. Like it is very lived in. This is a world that feels like it exists and people would be here. It is interesting how much storytelling is just done in the background of this particular movie, with maybe the emptiest scene being that anything that happens in a household. So whether it's Riggs, Murtaugh, or that mansion, or the apartment where the girl jumps, anytime you're at a house, that's where things start to really get intimate. But if it's any form of public location, the public is there.
So I think that is the main scene that starts you swimming through the rest of the action for the next hour, because immediately they go to like Gary Busey reports that, there's cops, and then 5 seconds later Gary Busey is shooting Riggs on the street through a window. It's like, nothing else is important. He said go kill him. He's gonna go kill him. Next thing we're doing. We gotta
man,
race around.
You just reminded me. And okay, I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, but they created deception. They're like, Riggs is dead. And the big, my 10 out of 10 scene is when Gary Busey calls the police station posing as a reporter. And he's like, we heard there was an officer involved shooting. And just one of the detectives is like, yeah, Detective Riggs is dead. And I was just like, they're in on it already. Like, so many cop movies, like, you've got someone who makes a critical error. But in this one, probably, okay, The most unrealistic thing about this movie is that the LAPD is competent, and this scene proves it.
Yeah.
Like, they are famously the worst police department in the United States all the time. They have been for my entire lifetime. There has never been a time where people have said, trust the LAPD, they'll get the job done. No, they are the bottom of America's policing force. And they have been for my entire life. And I don't know why it excites me whenever I get to see the LAPD being competent. Like, I'm like, could you imagine a world like that? Like, that's wild.
Yeah. Well, it feels like a bunch of dominoes just starting to fall because they have to start acting on the information because they know that heroin's being trafficked and now they got to put a stop to it. So it's go time for an hour.
They kidnapped the daughter. They kidnapped Murtaugh's daughter.
That's, I think it explains a lot of the family scenes without the family scenes having felt too much. Like, give me 5 minutes of the family. Yeah, they interacted pretty well. I have no complaints about the actors portraying a family together. It worked pretty well.
Yeah, I liked this family. Murtaugh's family was a solid family unit. All of these actors totally bought it. What I can't remember is if we ever saw the girlfriend's boyfriend.
No.
Because
on purpose.
I know. Well, that's the thing. He is killed off screen, but when they talk about the kidnapping, they mention that they find that kid's car and that he's dead. And they're like, wait, wasn't he supposed to go on a date with your daughter? And that's how they find out the daughter's been kidnapped. And now I'm just sitting here like, did this fictional character never even get a face on screen?
I don't think so.
He was always just talked about off screen.
I think so. Like, because I always, I would have to look at what they say about it because, for some reason, I thought that Gary Busey's face was the one that had dimples, and he had been playing the long game of getting Murtaugh's kid. And I was like, well, that doesn't really make any sense. They didn't know Murtaugh at all before he finally showed up. So because he dies off screen, I thought it was a fake out. Like, oh, it was actually Mr. Joshua this whole time. That shows that I watched this when I was like 13.
Wild. Yeah. That would have been such a twist. Your teenage daughter is dating a 30-year-old like special forces guy, ex-special forces.
Yeah.
But it's the 80s, like maybe. Yeah, that takes them to the desert.
Salt flats.
Yeah.
I bet.
And where Riggs' ruse is swiftly revealed. Like, I think it's maybe 2 shots in, and they're like, the only person who can make that shot is Riggs. He's still alive.
Yeah, he gets at least 3 kills. But he does reveal himself to try and save the guy's Murtaugh's daughter. And I think it was a interesting capture of the good guys. Like, they tried their best against a heroin ring, and they're gonna pay for it. Yeah.
Yep. And that's endearing. One of the features of a noir movie is having the good guys lose, and it does make you feel sympathetic for the heroes, and it makes you realize these are human beings, and human beings fail. And maybe these guys are going to fail. Maybe this was their last failure, and they're going to die.
Yeah. Almost, basically.
Yep. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, the movie I mentioned earlier, is another noir movie. It's kind of a buddy detective, except that the two leading detectives are private eyes. They're not cops. So they don't have the police department behind them. But they also, similar to this one, they have a moment where you're like, oh no, they lost. Like they didn't make it. And I don't know if that's just Shane Black having an understanding of the genre or if that's just what he wanted to do. Because I'm pretty sure Iron Man 3, Iron Man loses towards the end.
Is that a noir film?
Yeah, well, now I'm sitting here like, maybe that's a Christmas noir. Or maybe it's just that Shane Black likes to make his heroes lose right before they can win.
I think it's fair if it's like you don't have. I feel like for all of the bluster that they built up Riggs and Murtaugh with, of like, oh, he can shoot really well. It's like, well, you're still just two dudes against the army. So, like, I would expect you to lose, but I thought you had a fighting chance. You had a plan, which is more than some good guys have. Like the Illuminati, if I might drop a name or two.
It takes us into our finale, which is kind of a sweeping finale because we begin calmly with both characters getting tortured in different areas.
So
but
calm.
No one, like nobody's shooting each other, but this is the lowest point of the intensity, is everyone getting tortured. Murtaugh is beside himself. He is not taking the torture very well. Whereas Riggs, who is physically getting electrocuted, seems to be doing just fine.
I feel like Mythbusters did a debunking of that car battery, because you can't even electrocute somebody with that. Like, in that setup, it would not break the, what would they call it? Like the resistance of your skin. Because yes, it has enough to start a car, but it does not have enough to shock you like that.
Well, don't try it at home,
right?
Under our advice. But I'm curious in looking it up, so maybe I'll end up trying to find that just to at least watch that section. Because it is such an iconic image. I had never even considered the realism of it.
Yeah, that's where it's like, it does seem really like, if you've not watched Lethal Weapon, you may still know that bit of torture.
Yeah. Yeah, he's standing under a shower and someone with a car battery connected to two sponges just keeps jabbing him over and over.
It sounds
Meanwhile,
horrible.
Gary Busey is just standing by until he finally leaves. And that is what kicks everything off. All we got to do is get rid of Gary Busey, and then Riggs is ready to go ham, go action star.
Let's see. It's like it's like an hour and 49 minutes. And I think the guns and after the torture and stuff start about 1:30. So you got a good 20 minutes of guns blazing, really. The end is maybe 2 minutes of resolution, but they both happen at the house. One, he's beating the guy up, and the other, he's coming in for Christmas dinner.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to agree with you in that I at least kind of find the shootout to be relatively boring.
In the cars and stuff?
Yeah, bad guys die and blah, blah, blah. I know we kill the main bad guy at some point during the shootout, because the last one standing is Mr. Joshua. And I don't know why he goes back to the Murtaugh house. Maybe he thinks he's going to kill the rest of the Murtaughs.
Revenge. I don't know.
Yeah, something. But it leads to a fight in the yard. Someone hit a fire. I forget what that's called.
He
A
came
fire
by.
hydrant.
Joshua came by, shot the cops in the car. Their car free rolled into it, and so then it geysered up.
Okay, so that's where the water comes from.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a mostly shirtless, very wet mud fight between Mel Gibson and Gary Busey. And it kind of holds up. It kind of reminds me of They Live when the two lead actors are having a street fight. And it's very visceral, and it's not like an action movie of standing up and taking jabs at each other. It's dirty, and it's people tackling into the ground and positions changing left and right. And in that regard, I think it's the best scene in the finale. I'm like, this is fantastic as far as a fight goes.
There's maybe a touch too much of the noir lighting coming in, because a lot of the rain from the fire hydrant is like obscuring it, but in a decent way. Like, I still know that it's two dudes just going all out to try and kill each other.
And obviously the crowd around them is just cheering for Riggs. There's no one cheering for Mr. Joshua, which at some point should let him know that he is not going to win. Like, even if he beats Riggs and kills Riggs, he's still getting arrested.
Fighting for the pride of it, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
None of it makes sense or works, and yet I love it. I love it.
Maybe just a little bit long, but I think it was mostly fine. 9 out of 10, mostly fine.
Yeah. For that fight, I'll agree. 9 out of 10, mostly fine. A little ridiculous. Just don't think about it.
Yeah.
Turn off your brain.
I think a lot of it, turn off your brain helps it. I think it's that little bit of familiarity where I've never watched Chucky and gave it decent scores. I've watched 75% of this film multiple times. But even now, just watching it this time, I'm like, after going through Chucky and trying to think of what other movie franchise felt sparse, there's so many people around, and yet it's not unbelievably overpopulated. Like, I feel like other movies would put 3 or 4 cop cars at the Murtaugh's house. This one just had 2 dudes in 1 car, and I'm like, that's fair. And I don't think they have names given to them. They die. And it's just understood that these were additional population of LA. When he's doing the run on foot, there's a million cars, and I think I'd be interested in the behind the scenes actually of this one, because I want to know how much shooting they did on site. Like, the houses are probably, I don't know. It's like a real house on a real street, but could be on a set.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm not familiar enough with LA to know what's real and what's just a set, what's in a studio lot somewhere. A lot of the stuff in the city, I think, has to be real, but I don't know. I've never been. I've heard that there are times, at least in modern filmmaking, where they will film in a completely different city because it feels more like the city that they're emulating. So who knows? Maybe there's a Hollywood look-alike somewhere out there. But in the 80s, it had to be filmed in LA.
I think, I want to watch behind the scenes. Well, I'll do that at some point. Well, Riggs wins, and that's just the fight. He also wins the friend lottery and comes in for Christmas dinner or something.
Yeah.
I do think I rolled my eyes a little bit at them both just not liking his wife's cooking, but
Yes.
you know,
I actually like that. I thought it was funny.
It's a detail that makes the world seem less white picket fence, more like he says that about the meatloaf, and in the very next breath, his wife's like, "You're an asshole. You're being an asshole." And I'm like, okay, fair. If she can say that to him and he can say that to her, I feel like there's a little bit of love there. Okay.
Yeah, they've got to love each other at that point. That's just the way it's got to be. Because otherwise, someone's getting kicked out of the house. Yeah, I gotta say, my biggest thumbs down. The thing that kind of haunts me. I don't know if this is the very end of the movie, but at one point, like there's been this question over the whole movie of like, is Riggs really suicidal or is this all an act? At one point he's like, it's real. I've got the bullet that I'm going to do it with. Like we even see him put the gun in his mouth and then do like, yeah, he seems real. And then at the end of the movie, he's like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I was never going to do it. I'm good. And I don't know if this is him trying to be like, I'm fixed now, or if this is the movie saying like, he never was going to do it. It was always just an act. He had no follow through. I don't know. It just kind of cheapens the rest of the character to have it just kind of hand waved away to be like, and guess what? Never been suicidal. Never was going to do it. Like, what?
Yeah. I feel like that maybe some, what do you call it? Bravado, just straight denial of he is portrayed as being pretty close. The Murtaugh stops the hammer from hitting the gun. He takes the gun out of his mouth. He does gift away the hollow point bullet to Murtaugh at the end, and it's like it feels like I feel like it's still giving the character some depth of I'm in denial, and I'll deny it till I die that I didn't actually want to do this, but
but also here's the bullet to stop me from doing it. Like, so maybe you're right. Maybe it is a bit of the like, yes, I was going to, but now I'm not, and here's my proof. Here's my totem. Yeah, you can hold on to it forever. Well, we're here at the end. There's not much to talk about except our scores. So let me just tell the audience that on this podcast, we do ratings, not grades. The primary difference is where you find the average. In a grade, the average is a 7 out of 10. But in movies, we say the average is a 5 out of 10 because we're not grading these things. Nobody's going to be held back a year because their movie got a 5 out of 10. No, the average is the middle. It's where it lands. So if you hear that we called a movie a 5 out of 10, we're not saying it's a bad movie. We're saying it's right in the middle. So with that said, Justin, what'd you think of 1987's Lethal Weapon?
I didn't really land on a score until we were talking because I did want to find justification for why I really rate it so high. And I think I found them because the world feels so much bigger than these two guys, and they just happened to get this case for taking down a heroin ring. And I still feel like there's other stuff that could be happening for the LA Police Department. So let's see these guys be heroes. And 5 is our average, 6 is above average. I think my original familiarity with it gives it one more extra point, and I think it's justified by the population of the movie. I've given it a 7 out of 10. I think 7
for extras
is a good one. For the feel that they give, like the kid extras we didn't really talk about. They're good. They have a whole
Oh,
little
yeah.
scene.
There was a whole little scene with those little kids, and they are so funny.
Yeah.
I forgot all about them.
That's the comedy. And it works. And I think like I was trying to compare it to extras that exist yet don't matter. The funeral at the guy's home, the where else were the people? The I think the first suicide location.
There's a million people
there's a lot
watching
of
those cops.
People, and they're talking about happy birthday to Murta, and stuff exists. Comparing that to a good movie, or I don't know, maybe we'll get to ranking. It's not a franchise, but like the extras in Tenet, they're around the protagonist and the Robert Pattinson character in the cafe where they're first meeting, but I don't care about them. They're just kind of there. And the extras, even the extras that are like time travelers like the rest of them, don't really carry too much for me. Where like, oh, this guy's getting assassinated, but there's people in his house, and there's so much set dressing that makes it feel so much more relatable than something like Tenet. Like, I could be a cafe in any European city. I don't know. I don't care. But yeah, 7.
I think that's fair. I think that's a very fair score. And I'll be honest, when I had watched it, I had said that I was at a 7. And then I just kept thinking about really Riggs and his whole mental health crisis. And that's kind of what brings me down to a 6. I just don't know if the movie has aged so well with Riggs's emotional distress.
Yep.
I don't think they ever tell us explicitly, but he is suicidal because his wife is dead. We get to see him holding a picture of her. We know that she's dead. We don't know how she died. We don't know what happened or why he feels so hell-bent on killing himself, but it's made to, at least it's, God, I gotta organize my thoughts before I try to say this. It makes me think that they had it in their head that they wanted to really confront the idea of a suicidal cop and showing their ability to come out of it through the support of a good friend. And what they gave us was one of the best male friendships in all of cinema. The best in television, and probably the best of all time, is in Scrubs. But I would say number 2 is Lethal Weapon. Like, I think those two are the 2 best male friendships in media. And I really think that this movie excels in showing that. Otherwise, it's kind of a little bit boring, especially at the beginning, and it's a little bit hard to follow. Like, you get to see who the bad guys are, so there's not really a mystery to solve. Like, you know who did it because we're introduced to them. We get to see them on camera, but so like, it's not much of a crime movie for the detective side. It's more of a crime movie in the action side. I'm solid on the 6. I think the best thing about this is the friendship between Riggs and Murtaugh. It is definitely a watchable movie, and I'm glad we watched it. But even having 20 years distance from the last time I've watched this franchise, I do know what's on the horizon. And it's hard to be like, wow, this movie was great, when I know how great this franchise can be. And it's also just thinking in terms of other movies that we watched. I was bored at the beginning. That's a killer. Like, if I'm tempted to grab my phone, that's usually something that's hurting a movie's rating.
I got you.
And I was pretty tempted for the beginning of this one.
Understandable.
Well, that gives us a show average of 6.5 out of 10. Nice and easy. That's the thing about having two hosts. You don't have a lot of crazy ratings, but I think it's room for growth, and it's still starting us above average. Like, this is a good place to start with a franchise, in my opinion.
That's a pretty short franchise, but I'm looking forward to watching the rest, and I probably will end up disappointed because I did not have them on repeat on VHS. I do think I got to watch 4 when it came out. Looks like 98. So I got to watch it on like TBS or something. Something on TV still. But yeah, that sums up Lethal Weapon 1 for us. Thank you, listener, for listening to our first episode of the Lethal Weapon franchise, otherwise known as Lethal Weapon, because I don't know if they had plans for a sequel. Why would you name it 1? That would be interesting. Does anyone start with a 1? I would be interested to see.
No, but we
It'd be
do
so
have
funny.
a Transformers 1.
Right?
I mean, it was many years after all of the other ones, but it is a Transformers 1.
That'd be funny. So confident. It'd have to be like a satire movie or something. Anyway, thank you for listening. I was going to say watching. Please like, comment, or interact wherever you find us. Share it to those around you that may have also grown up with Lethal Weapon on VHS off of the TV recording, because I'm curious when VHS recorders came out, because I feel like everybody recorded stuff off TV. It was so fun. Go ahead and write comments, write nostalgia to our Gmail account. We'd love to read them if it's not on our social platforms. That is potatochippicturespod@gmail.com. Other than that, we tend to sign off. And before I sign off, I'd like to note that 1987, his birthday, I don't know if it's on the cake or whatever, if anybody says it, he's turning 50 years old. This is considered old compared to his younger partner, who's 37, apparently, in Lethal Weapon 1.
Well, I mean, I would give many lives to go back to just 37.
Just 37, right. But in the theme of the franchise, we're too old for this shit. Bye.
Goodbye.